Okay, we're printing on a Saturday. And I got Eugene, my buddy here, helping me today. I want to show you this. It's a 500 shirt order that's on moisture wicking shirts. And you advanced guys don't need to watch this. This is only for the newbies and the intermediate guys, because I do things strange ways. But on this shiny material, you're not trying to get the ink pushed down into the shirt fiber so much as you are just wanting to lay a layer of ink up on top. And I've got this in all 280s, so I am struggling a little bit to get a real nice white base. So I'm using my teeter-totter, where if you got a real sharp, good squeegee you got control of the edge of it. That's why I pull instead of push. When I push, I don't have control of the edge. When I pull, I can make the edge do anything I want to. Get just a laid on top, real nice white base. I'm flashing over there, and my flash is wide open. About 4.5 inches above the platen. And I'm not letting anything sit there longer than 8 seconds. And 8 seconds is almost too much. But that gets this base real nice and firm where nothing else sticks to it. And I am printing this out of order. After I got through prepping the art through that little JPEG re-nurturing thing that I do, I do the final separation used to in quick steps, but now I'm doing it in Ultraceps, which I think I'm really going to like that program. It's a little bit different than Ultraceps, but it does a lot more, so it's just the operator more than it is the program. I'm going to have to learn everything that it does. It did a real nice job on this separation. But like I said, you got to, nobody's going to sit here and tell you that you can print as good off of crappy art, regardless of what you do to the art, as you can having somebody redraw it and then having $150 or $300 separation done on it. Nobody is going to say that. Like I said, this was a 72, the front was a 72 DPI PNG file, and the back I'm going to show you later on in this video is a 72 DPI PPT file with a flattened black background that I had to take out of it. It could have been many things going into it wrong, and the separation looks like it's going to be real good. And I'm going to print it. It's got like 9 colors. I'm going to print it with 4, 1 being a highlight white and not printing black. We'll have to wait and see if I pull that out of my ass. I think I have. We'll just have to wait till we see it and see. But let me finish this one right here up. Just bear with me for a second. You could get by after you get this base and this solid red area flashed, printing the rest wet on wet if you want it. But I turn the tables anyway, so I give it just a second there to just what I call like a real light flash on top of the ink to keep the ink from spreading out on you, because every one of these screens have got some extent of halftones in it, even the white underbase.
To see Safe House with Denzel Washington, we're here at 3 o'clock. Toyota Murfreesboro, it's Jimmy DeKay on 105.9 The Rock.
Castrol Edge, the official motor oil sponsor of the NFL, knows you have the strength to perform. So when you buy a Castrol GTX conventional oil,
I could have printed this one without the black also, except I was so concerned about getting a real nice white base that doing the teeter-totter, which the reason I do that is because it makes it easier on me printing. I do things that's easier on me versus the other way around. I think probably the rest of you will too at some time in the future.
To do a job well, you need the right tools. If you're filing your taxes online, make sure you use the right tool for the job. With H&R Block at home, you get the very best tax software available. File your simple tax return for free at hrblock.com today.
But
Free audit support. H&R Block.
the thing, let me get my thing turned around here. It's really printing nice for what I had to work with. And then today's a Saturday. It's an open air day. You can see the dogs are really helping. Eugene, my buddy, he's helping me today, and we've got some chickens on the grill. Go over and open up the grill. Let's show them the chickens.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
They're just now getting ready for the first turn.
Like you might know what you're doing. It looks good.
Well, I know how to eat it. That's the best thing.
Yeah, we good at that.
And then I'll show y'all the back a little bit later in this video. There, see?
Okay.
Okay, now, you guys know that I don't use almost any ink without getting it to the consistency or the thickness of whatever I want. And this is the Union Poly ink, and I'm putting just regular Union reducer in it, that much right there, and that'll do like another probably 75 to 100 shirts with that block there. But by thinning that ink down a little bit, it prints better, it separates from the screen better, and it gives you a smoother texture, because you know that if your underbase is not right, nothing you ever put on top of it ever will be. Okay. Let's see what we got for supper here. It's looking pretty good. I buy these bags of quarters of chickens for like under $6, and it's like 12 quarters I think in there, and I do me what I want to eat. I do the rest of the bag for the dogs for under $6. My dogs would a whole lot rather have that hunk of meat right there, and I already got some off over here for them. Then a little bitty chew, and I don't know if you've bought chews at the store lately. This is cheaper, and they sure like it a lot more. Okay, on this is the second back on those shiny shirts that I've been doing. What I'm going to do is I'm talking to the guys that fight the jobs on the automatics, the young guys. I mean, I ain't smart enough or good enough to talk to the advanced guys. But this thing here is 16 inches tall, which is about all I want to do stroke-wise on my machine. I can only print 6 colors. I've got a 8-station, all-electric brown, which does a really good job for me. And on a job like this, you've got to make sure the tables and the squeegees and the way you're holding your mouth and everything else is just right. Like I said, I thin inks to make them do what I want them to do. I've got the white in a 255. I got everything else in 305s. I got everything else in 305s. On my automatic, I use an IR flash instead of the quartz. I'm more comfortable with it than I am the quartz, because the quartz cost me money on sweatshirts one time, and I lost faith in it. But like I said, I've got a cooling fan set up. Mine's a semi-auto, so I can do half station. I'm taking white, which is white poly ink that is thin some. I'm hitting it twice. These are Badger 100% polyester shirts, and they take more of a flash, but don't take as much heat in the dryer, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what it come down to after all the testing on it. You know, I'm a testing fanatic. Half station, which now I didn't say this when I started, but do not even attempt to print something like this without warming your tables up. You'll fight it from beginning to end. Just do the smart thing, take the time, warm your tables up. My half station's cooled. Everything's printing. Everybody else is hitting one time, and white's hitting twice.
It's wonderful. If any kid has ever strummed a tennis racket or a broomstick that aspired to be in a band, how many of those are lucky enough to ever make
These are Raglan. I don't really like Raglan stuff, but it is pretty easy to line up. Let your cooling fan do its job. The worst thing you can hear is that pop. And even worse is that second pop. But anyway, don't you guys use ink straight out of the bucket and fight it the whole time. The manufacturers, in my opinion, they make the ink, what they make that I use is like a barbecue base. You work it up and make it do what you want it to do. And instead of y'all just sitting here watching me watch person to person on TV and print, I'll show you the print.
So this whole hallway is like almost a tribute to your family and to your children?
And like I said, this was off of a pretty bad file. It was a scan that come off of a poster, as far as what I was told. This isn't really taking a good picture of it, but you can even see that little airborne right there lines up.
What do you tell them to try and get them to understand how fortunate they are?
This thing looked, I mean, tremendously better without this green haze to it, but we just do what they want us to do, right? That's it. One thing I want to add on this thing here, there again, I mean, if you've done it for a while, you know this, but one of the really hard things to do is to pick an adhesive that works with the substrate that you're using well. You know, I use this air gun and dilute the water base tack through it. About in that little cup there, it's about 1/8 water, and the rest of it is that. But I mix it up in my gallon jug instead of in there. If you used to use web tack on these, you could just hang it up. You could get by using canned mist. But if it's a lot of shirts, you're going to have to clean the pallets at least one time through a whole bunch of shirts, because it builds up, it starts getting funky. This thing here has got a light white in the top, a solid white in the bottom, and then the black is exactly the opposite. That solid white at the bottom being the first color, if you're right on the verge of burning the shirt, you make sure that's flashed. You know, I use that Pam cooking spray and then sometimes silicone spray. That will get you out of a pop until you can get everything back hot enough for it to stop. But most of the time, as long as I've done it, when you get in trouble in a job, you can pull yourself out of it. Just like if you muddy a screen somehow, you can print it out of order one time, sometimes more than once, but you can clean the bottom of the screen on the shirt without having to wipe it, because when you start wiping something big, it's a stop right then and clean everything up again. If you make sure, like I said, your tables are warm, you've got your flash where you know you're doing what it needs to do, then once your tables build up to working temperature, you can back off on your flash. But don't try to save an extra second if you get into that pop. If you get into that pop, get out of that pop right then. Because if you don't, it'll get worse. And if you hit that second pop, you better just stand up and pay attention for a minute. Especially if you're printing on supplied garments. All right, that's it. Get up, Prince. Get up. Say hi, Prince. Come here, Prince. Come here. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. There's Boogie. That's Ink Dog. Remember Ink Dog? If you look back here on his butt, he's still Ink Dog. You can tell I'm bored. But I am, like I said, I'm talking to these young guys. It's been a long week. I print from home and I do contract work for other shops that can't do what I can yet. And believe me, the only reason I can is just because I've fought it for so long, figuring it out. And there's, oh Lord, there's plenty of people, I mean tons and tons better than I am. I'm just kind of a little piddly guy right here in the middle. I like bologna and beans, and it's going to take a lot of it to make me happy. You can tell. But what I'm going to show you this one is, I use this gun I was telling you about a few minutes ago, and a lot of you know that I've used it for a long time now. And I don't clean mine like I should. I just kind of go back to my old airbrush days. Like I said, that's a water-based pack. You can adjust the spray just about anywhere, any way you want to. It's like a sign painter, or it's like me on this ink. You don't take a brush and try to paint a sign unless you get the paint right to work the way you want to. And I mean, that's the same way I look at ink. Impressions Magazine, on their front cover this month, they've got a big thing about flock, and it says add texture to your print. And you guys that know me, I've added texture to prints for a long time with all the shit that I do with puffing. And well, for instance, the one that's on the front cover, I mean, it's a super looking shirt. You know, flock, you've got a couple different steps you have to do. If you get used enough to using the puff, you can make it textured by putting halftones in your in your artwork. You can make it solid, and you can make it different heights by the amount of mixture of puff, you know, additive that you put into your ink. Puff additive, the one I use is from Union. And I mean, it does not work in all inks. So there again, test. Trying to get my air compressor cut on because I had a little joke I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you that was my reverse osmosis oxygenating machine, and then it helped filter the air, and then just chuckle and laugh about it and say, no, that's what runs my gun. But it wouldn't come on for me, and I'm out of shirts. Okay, one more little thing. You guys that are starting out, that's like working by yourself, make you a list. Naturally, you've got a work order. It's got the list and everything on it. Don't do a job without a work order. That way you make sure everything's right the whole time. I use a little clipboard that I keep that job on back and forth from the computer. Count the shirts in, or I do, count the shirts in as you're printing them. That way you've never got to worry about them again. I'd rather count them when everything is neat. There's my osmosis machine. I'd rather count them when everything's coming out of folds. I'll just run through the necks and count them. Mark them off your list. Like I said, you never have to count them again. Number all your tables, whether it's manual or automatic. That way you always know where you're at on the press and in the process. Run all that size, and if you know where you change sizes at on the press, I use a little piece of paper I mark it down on so I don't have to remember it. I got that can't remember stuff. Stop, go pick them up, fold them. You're going to want to just print, let everything build up. Everything gets wrinkled. If you've got very much ink on something, the ink's not going to look as good when it's folded to give to the customer. So stop, pick that size up, then start the next size. It did save you an amazing amount of time as far as going through shirts. And Lord, I hate picking up shirts.